The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's the Full Melt Show.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
It's the Full Melt Show, a marijuana discussion about news, culture, and entertainment. TheFullMelt.com. It's your backyard. It's celebrity interviews, talks with politicos. Plus, your calls are on the air. Download the Full Melt app, free at the Apple and Android app stores. With your host, Steve Green, the Full Melt Show.
All right, welcome to the Full Melt Show. I'm your host, Steve Green. And it is the last broadcast day of the year. Wendy, are you there? Happy New Year to you, Wendy.
Happy New Year, Steve.
Oh, good Lord. It was like I was talking to R2-D2 for a second.
Why? What happened?
You'll have to hear it back.
Am I pixelated again?
It was pixelated, but like I said, it was like beep, 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 blurb. I was like, I pissed off a robot.
Don't piss off the bad robot.
Ooh, bad robot. That's better than, what is that? Is it Bad Woman?
Well, Bad Robot's like a production company that does like TV shows and stuff, I think.
I forgot about that. Well, you know the Bad Woman
Yeah.
thing, right? You know the Bad Woman thing, right?
No. Tell me
was-
about the Bad Woman thing.
Oh man, see now I'm not all queued up to make fun of it now. It's that's the thing with the guy that sings like a goat.
Oh, don't do that to me. Don't. Please don't.
I won't.
I pray to God.
I won't.
I thought we were getting rid of that.
I did. I'm just saying the song. That's the song that I used to make fun of, the AWOL Nation song.
I could never understand what he was saying. I never knew what that guy was saying.
That's because he was doing a number 2 while he was saying it. That's why.
Oh no.
But, anyways,
welcome to 2017, folks.
Hey, it's going to be an interesting year. There is so much going on. Have you seen all the stuff going on?
I've seen some stuff going on.
Are you down with what's going on? Are you down with OPP?
I'm down.
Yeah, you know me.
People, you know me. We are so old.
I know.
We are so old.
It's so bad. I literally have turned into the guy I used to make fun of.
I know. This is why you're supposed to have children at this point, though, because that's their job.
You know, in my day, we used to type on a typewriter, and if you made a mistake, you rubbed your fingers off trying to get it off the paper, and then you screwed up your school report, and we liked it. That's how it was.
Can I tell you, I learned on a manual typewriter and went to state championship on a manual typewriter. Isn't that weird?
Oh, see, now you really are showing how old you are.
I'm really old. Yeah, but they had electric, but in high school, they taught me on a manual. And then they had this business club, and you could actually compete in that category.
Really? You could compete in typing?
And I won, and I went to the state championship at the Renaissance Center.
Typing is a competitive sport?
It is. There's a business office education club in high school you can join, and then you can compete.
Is it a recognized sport in the Olympics? Can you get a gold medal in typing?
I did get some sort of certificate, I believe.
You did? Is it like it is nowadays where you get a certificate just for thinking about maybe signing up? Hey, you get a certificate for that. Thank you for participating.
I won.
You're a great person.
I won. Nope, I won. I got third place locally, went to the state championship, and my roommate went to nationals and won nationals. So, go team.
I think part of what you see displayed in, the economy of the day, in the quality of our workforce, it's displayed, I think, in work ethic. I don't think any of these things really exist anymore. If you go up to somebody who was born in 1984 or afterwards and ask them what a work ethic is, they'll look at you like, what do you got, 3 heads? Which head do I talk to? because they don't understand what ethics are. They don't understand, to have a work ethic. To say I'm going to show up every day, I'm going to do my hardest, because the harder I work, the more the company makes, and the company makes, the more valuable I am as an employee, and the more money I make as an employee.
Well, that's when we used to be rewarded for working. Now you're just considered a cog in the machine to make the corporations money. It's not a.
Well,
people had ethics and pride in what they did because they were actually making things and providing services, and their company rewarded them with pensions and good benefits. Now you're just supposed to work for $7 an hour and be happy.
Well, I mean, they would, in a perfect world, they'd like you to work for less than $7. If they could get away with making you work for less than $7, and they can if they move your job offshore. It's just really hard to move the fast food worker jobs offshore. That's all I'm saying.
It's hard to move doctor jobs offshore too.
Well, but if they could get those guys to work for cheaper, they would too. And if they could funnel you into a doctor's office in another country and get away with calling that American health care, they'd damn sure do that as well. They would spend they would spend the money to get you to Mexico or Canada to go see a doctor there, and pay them the pittance that they could survive on in those places. And then say, hey, we provided you American health care. Look at our awesome American health care system. How cool it is. That at the end of the day, I said it again. I promise it's a New Year resolution. No more at the end of the day. That's
it.
When you stand back and look at this, we gave you your health care dollar at a cheaper rate because of competition and good old-fashioned American screw-you ingenuity.
Well, and they can do these things cheaper. Like a hip replacement in Spain is $7,000, and here it's like $45,000. So, I mean, there are people doing it where they don't have these bloated corporate welfare insurance companies being the middleman. We don't need middlemen to administer our health care.
Right.
Bottom line. That's my little phrase, and I'm keeping it.
That's the one you're sticking with.
I'm sticking with it.
So, when you start talking about people in the modern day, like this is how the millennial generation is raised, and I think it's not a fault of their own. I think it's a fault of their parents. I think this is bad parenting. When you start to nerf the world and protect your child and give them anything that they want, and tell them how good that they are, and tell them what great people they are, even though they were ugly that day, or coddle them. And
can I give you the best example?
Wait, let me finish the thought, please. And then also on top of that, tell them that they can have whatever they want, and that they don't really have to work hard, or they don't have to show up, or they don't have to. And then they get out in the real world and they find out that all those things, in fact, none of those things are true. Bear with me. I'm sorry, Wendy. And hold your thought, because we'll come back after the break and get it out. I want your opinion. I'm not trying to belabor you. But they get out in the real world and they start working at a job and they find out that they're depressed at their new job and they want to quit. And the whole reason is because it's not like that at all. They've been deceived this whole time. It's like, bringing Santa Claus into the workplace. It just ain't real.
Getting the full melt.
Your pets aren't just animals, they're members of your family. That's why we are excitedly wagging our tail about our hemp-based product that caters specifically to your best friend. Hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats, and really all kinds of pets. Hemp well drops are made from virgin, cold-pressed organic hemp oil. Our extraction process ensures the highest quality oil for your pet. With superior taste, smell, and nutrition, we hold ourselves to the highest standards, never using heat, chemicals, or preservatives in making our hemp oil products for pets. Pick up a bottle of Hempwell drops today at select retailers or online at hempwell.com. Hempwell, hemp health for pets.
If you missed the last Full Melt show,
You missed a lot.
Yes, sir. We are just here to get you qualified, okay, for the lower interest rates.
this is a Visa card.
Okay. It's a Visa card, starts with 4, right?
So why do you need the numbers off the card?
I was going to let you know, what is your new interest rate going to be and what you qualified for, okay?
Well, wouldn't it be a security risk if I was to give my card number over the phone?
Sure, we are the ones who send you the billing statements every month.
Aren't you really just a liar? Aren't you just lying about this? Aren't you just trying to steal my credit card number? Oh, you are? You little piece of shit? You're a little fucking liar, aren't you? You're a little
That's
foreign
what you
piece
are,
of shit,
okay?
aren't you? You're a little foreign fucking puke, aren't you?
That's what you are. You fucking piece of shit.
Oh no! You get to suck my fucking. You get to suck my fucking American dick, you foreign piece of fucking shit. There you go. That's how you do that.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
Wish your skin could bounce back like it used to? Neutrogena Hydro Boost Water Gel instantly quenches skin to keep it supple and hydrated day after day. With hydrating hyaluronic acid, which retains up to 1,000 times its weight in water. This refreshing water gel plumps skin cells with intense hydration and locks it in. For supple, hydrated skin that bounces back. Hydro Boost from Neutrogena. See what's possible.
And now, a Planet Green Trees flashback.
That is the paradox. Like you can't make this, the civil employees rebut the presumption, right? The state just gave $8.5 million to this administrative agency to implement. I mean, the concept there is a little offset.
The police are still seem to be involved in it.
Nothing takes incentives away from police. In fact, it gives them more fish to shoot in the barrel.
Right.
The police are literally the regulatory agency for the entire program.
And why is that?
They needed their cut.
They're the only ones knowledgeable and responsible enough to handle it. This major public health and safety issue.
Don't miss the Planet Green Trees show. Thursdays at 8 Eastern on Spreaker. It's the Full Melt Radio Show. Catch us here Monday through Friday from 7 till 8 p.m. Eastern.
I wish I found some better sounds no one's ever heard. I wish I had a better voice.
With me on the phone is Wendy. Wendy, you were trying to say before the break, and I didn't want to cut you off. I'm sorry. But you were trying to give me an example of what I was trying to say, a prime example of this lack of what is it? Work ethic? Isn't that what you were trying to say?
Yeah, I can't hear you real good to the music's over, Steve.
All right, the music's dying now. There you go.
I love the music. I love it. Well, as an example, and I will preface this, there was more to this story that I found out later, but on my Facebook feed, someone posted a picture of their son's car and said he's out there driving by himself today. Please be careful. And it just hit me so funny because I thought it was cute. I'm like, what should we do? Put bumpers on and a big light on the top? And
No.
said, thanks
don't.
for warning us.
Well, wait a minute. I'm well, right. I suppose from that standpoint, I feel safer when I know that there's a young driver in front of me. But I don't want to mislabel what I view as just proud parenting, or cautious parenting. Oh, I'm nervous because my kid's out there driving for the first time. Be careful. I get that. Yeah. I don't want to mislabel that as the same thing that I'm talking about, because it is a form of the nerfing that I'm talking about. This helicopter parenting, this micromanagement of kids, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be cautious with your kids, and they're the precious angels and all of that stuff. But you can still have all of that, but there's an appropriate place for realism when you're talking about raising children, because when you coddle them like this, when you put them in a place where they're only getting this nurturing, constant when do they meet the real world? what happens
They never do.
Well, no, they do. They inevitably do. And when they do, they become depressed and they're on drugs because they need, they're depressed because they can't figure out why their lives don't work. And the answer is you were never taught a work ethic. You were never taught that there are responsibilities and that if you don't hold those responsibilities up in life, that they'll come back and bite you in the ass. It's not karma. It's just sowing your own, field. If you don't tend the field, you can't reap anything from it. And these kids were always taught all their lives you don't have to worry about anything because, we'll always have their, if worst comes to worst, you can live in mom's basement. And that might be true until mom's gone, and then who's paying the mortgage then? I mean, that's what's going on right now.
Well, a lot of this has to do with our economy and the lack of support in general society, that half of America's poverty level.
It's half poverty level because we become a consumer economy rather than a productive economy. We're no longer manufacturing things. We're no longer producing goods and making things that the world needs. All we're doing, we're just a service economy. We're just, just the things that we're consumers. We're just the things that we need to consume every day. Oil, gas, food, paper, stuff, services. I mean, we're a service-based economy now here in this country.
And how many people can give each other haircuts? We can't all go around giving each other a haircut and calling that a job.
Well, it's frankly not. I mean, what has to happen in this country is this country needs to rethink a couple of things. It's got to start with politics and weeding money out of politics. It's got to start there because if you don't, then when you start working your way up into the education system, which are elected positions and local positions, you've got problems with the public education system completely failing us. And then they want to blame things like the drug war. Oh, it's the drug war. It's these gangs and drugs and all this stuff. No, it's not. It's bad parenting. If your kids are at home taking care of their homework and doing the things under your tutelage as they should be when they're, youthful and in school, then they're not out joining gangs and, holding up people on the corner and doing deeds to get moved up in the drug culture or in the gang culture. I mean, we're getting way asunder from our point here. I mean,
we are, but we're bringing it back around.
Well, it does have a comeback around point because when you look at the broader picture with the marijuana economy and what's coming on board here, I mean, there are a lot of people. I know just as a guy that's been a businessman, an entrepreneur, who's had to hire people to do jobs for a decent wage. I lost my headphones. When you've got to hire somebody for good money, and the only people that you can get to even show up to do a simple sales job, and I'm talking something as simple as working retail in a mall or selling fireworks at a stand. Or even doing, hiring somebody with some skilled labor that you can teach. You don't even need to know how to do it. Just show up. I have the tools. I'll teach you how to do it. Like roofing, for example. All practical things that I've done myself in the past. These over the past 20 years, if I needed to hire somebody to help to do that, I could not, number one, depend on the person I was hiring. I couldn't depend that they were capable of learning what it is that I needed to teach them. That they could show up on time for their jobs and just do it because they already know what to do. That they wouldn't show up in a disheveled position or with dragon breath trying to sell stuff to people in a mall at Christmas time. Or body odor so bad that my own family members couldn't stand next to them because they stunk so bad that the crystal they were selling was weeping. So it's terrible when you can't find quality people to do the job, but these people were always taught that, you can go to college and get a good job, and if that doesn't work out, mommy and dad, you'll take care of you. But that doesn't pay the bills, it doesn't get you what you need, and it doesn't give you any self-esteem. So I don't know. When you look at the marijuana economy, those people out there I know are suffering from some of that very same problem, and then they've got the stigma of marijuana employees on top of that. Guys who are used to, having cannabis and, cannabis being somewhat of a mellower, something that is going to maybe take drive away, at least perceptually. Because I do cannabis every day. It doesn't take my drive away. I still get up and I do what I've got to do for the day. I mean, I still have a job to do at the end of the day. I hold myself to that standard if nobody else does. People today don't do that because they've got nobody driving that train. And it's difficult to employ people in a new cannabis economy if you can't indeed trust that their value of their jobs enough to show up to get $10 or $15 an hour to do trimming work or to sell cannabis at a dispensary or to work products at a sales event. So, I mean, even the jobs that are being put together in the new economy, unless you're at the head end of that job, at the boss position of that job, you're not getting much in life either. So I think that we need to rework some things politically beyond just cannabis reform. If you intend to have a good stake in the game, you better be willing to roll up your sleeves and contribute a little bit more than that. Hold yourself to a higher standard. Surround yourself with people who know more than you and that you hold a high esteem to. And soon you'll find that the things around you get better and your perspective changes and your drive changes. And suddenly life is more exciting and worth living because you've got something in the future to look forward to because you've designed it that way. Kids don't know how to do that nowadays. This business with the news and social media, and this is another issue about, it's a modern day problem. It's one that didn't exist 20 years ago. The fake news factor. The idea that, people in Russia are being blamed by our intelligence officers for having meddled with the last U.S. election to the effect that it might have changed the results of the election. I mean, this is scary stuff at the end of the day. Oh, I said it again. When you stand back and look at it, that's scary, scary stuff. If you can't tell what's news and what's not news when you're going to a news source to feed yourself, you've tainted the well from which you're drinking. You don't know if that water's good or not. You don't know if the news you're reacting to and responding to is satire, a joke, meant to inspire. Was it news at all? Was this just wholly made up just to get you to click on it because I get advertising money for it? That's 90% of what it is.
Changed.
Well, a lot has changed. I'm saying something
The
needs...
law, though, changed on that. They don't even have... It used to be required, whatever you reported at news had to be factually accurate. Now there's been a case that says, nope, it was with Fox News. And they said, no, you don't have any requirement to even tell us the truth. So they're basically infotainment.
Well, from a legal standpoint, no, but from a liability standpoint, one might think you do have some liability. That
is what the law is about, is liability. And the court said, no, you have no liability and no responsibility. Maybe it's an ethical, a moral thing, but there's no legal requirement for them to give you the facts.
Right.
Or, quote, what we used to call the news.
Because nobody's defined nobody said there's any law about news. Nobody's ever defined that, hey, this is how the news must be. You must have these credentials in order to report it or call it news. If you're doing a live report, it can't be faked. It can't be bolstered up with lies and propaganda. See, this is, the regular news outlets, the CNNs of the world, the Foxes, the ABCs, NBCs, CBSs. I don't know about Fox. I can't say for sure about Fox. I've never worked for them. I've worked for all of the others. And I can tell you that they have news standards, despite what people may think, that they do vet stories. They do check things out. They look at details. They check facts. They don't always participate to the degree that you'd want them to because it's not that viable as a commercial story for them. But they do check facts. They have ethics. They won't report something that isn't news for the liability factor alone. If you report something about somebody that isn't true and it affects their business, you can sue them for libel. Yeah, maybe it wasn't factually accurate in the news, but it also was factually inaccurate about somebody and you defamed them. And there is a liability attached there. It's called defamation. So I just think that we've got to rethink the way that we get our news because it's easy to make our population stupid, especially if you fail them at school and they can't even spell the words they're trying to use in a sentence. And they're getting diplomas and trying to function in a world where they got, the reason they got promoted wasn't because they knew the material, but because, they knew somebody. They figured a way around it creatively. It doesn't mean you learned anything or know anything. Therefore, when you get to a place where there are news stories that people want to believe are real, and the example in the cannabis community that came out today, this actually happened yesterday. I saw that one of my friends had posted a picture about TGI Fridays. And it was on Facebook, and they said this is at the Novi, it's a local community, TGI Fridays here in Michigan. And there's a picture on the sign at what clearly is a TGI Fridays door that looks like it's from management. But it's posted on the door and it says, notice that management, the TGI Fridays will not serve or seat anybody that has a strong marijuana odor. It said, thank you, management, down at the bottom. Now, what was suspicious about the image is that when you looked at the picture, there's nobody in the store behind the picture. So it's my estimation, it's my surmise, based on my little Spidey Tingle news sense. Now, I haven't vetted this at all, but I can put two and two together. Chances are this TGI Fridays was closed when somebody else hung that sign on the door and took that picture. That's what I think somebody did. Just as either a joke or to, it's clickbait. Look, I got some people to talk about it, and it worked. People are talking about it. Was it true? We don't know. I highly suspect that TGI Fridays would never allow something like this to happen. Ever.
And I just fact-checked what I said, and I was incorrect, too. So I told you about this Fox News thing because it was a case in Florida. I just read up on it, and I want to retract what I said. But it's exactly one of those things, exactly what you're talking about.
It's difficult to, like, if you can't,
what actually happened.
If you can't go to the news source yourself and find out from the horse's mouth, you've got to be highly suspicious of what that news story is, says, or purports, reality to be. Because the people are already suspect of the regular news, so they're looking for alternative sources. The problem is that the alternative sources have zero ethics and only a cash reason to tell you anything that they can sell you. Which is, if you want to hear that, Obama just joined the KKK, they will sell that line to you. I mean, that's what's going on right now. And this is why it was so easy, I think, for the Russians to sneak in under that veil and say, oh, no, we're just one of them. Oh, we're just one of those guys. News. Hey, check it out. Look what we found in the email servers. Look what everybody's really doing when everybody else is paying attention and lying to you in public. Look what's really going on. Oh, that's what the Russians were doing. And they were doing it to manipulate people's perception of what's happening. And they were successful, I think, in doing that.
Yeah, but it's not like the Russians hacked our voting machines. They just told us what the Democratic Party actually did.
Right.
And the person who did do that
correct.
was awesome himself. And we did nothing to her.
Yeah, but
How come we're not doing something to her?
Here's the other side of that, though. The Republicans were doing the same stuff. And the Republican email servers were hacked as well. They just weren't reported on. You see what I'm saying? The stories weren't made up about them on the internet. Nobody disseminated that stuff. It was only the one side, and it was meant to manipulate. A proper journalist would have said, look, we've got inside information from inside sources. We won't tell you we hacked into it. Normally, journalists wouldn't do that. But if they've got inside information, they would get it from both sides before they'd report it. And then they'd make sure that it's accurate, and then they would tell you both sides. That's what a journalist would do. But that's not what happened here. These stories were made up about one side and one side only, even though we've got evidence they hacked both. And there were a lot of juicy things on both sides to talk about. It's the only ones that got talked about were the ones that mattered to the Russians. The people that did the hacking.
The problem is that just like Obama's done with all his whistleblowers, he diverts from the real issue. The real issue is not the Russians.
Okay, I'm just saying on this story.
I'm just trying to bring it around and understand what you're saying. Like I'm trying to clarify in my own head where we're going with this. Is that people are being led to believe that our election was, quote, hacked. It was not. The truth was released by WikiLeaks, and the Russians had stuff to do with that.
Right, correct. If you look at the details of the minutia of what's happening, that's what happened. However, when you talk about the broader picture, and it is, I can't argue that the headline isn't factually incorrect. Our election was effectively hacked. It was hacked through trickery. It was hacked through means that you don't talk about in the headline. You talk about in the lower story. But when you start talking about the headline, the Russians hacked the election, that's a factually accurate headline in my estimation. Now, do I have personal proof the Russians did this? No. Have I seen what the CIA and our intelligence officers have seen? No. But we know through other news channels, other factual bases that I can check on, that's what's going on. So it's really easy though for people to confuse this and say, you know what, I like the new president we've elected, and I think and that might be all true, but you can't belie the idea that what at one point in time, in a very recent point in our history, was our chief opponent on the planet. The gain of power and wealth and territory by the Soviet Union, suddenly now is okay if the implication is made that they somehow affected our current election because we're too, mesmerized by the fact that something needed to happen. We needed some kind of change. I'm simply suggesting that that change shouldn't come at the hands of Vladimir Putin and the likes of him, or Donald Trump and his minions, because wait until you see what happens when those guys get a hold of the game, and they're about to get that entire football tossed their way.
You're getting the full melt.
Your pets aren't just animals, they're members of your family. That's why we are excitedly wagging our tail about our hemp-based product that caters specifically to your best friend. Hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats, and really, all kinds of pets. Hemp well drops are made from virgin, cold-pressed organic hemp oil. Our extraction process ensures the highest quality oil for your pet. With superior taste, smell, and nutrition, we hold ourselves to the highest standards, never using heat, chemicals, or preservatives in making our hemp oil products for pets. Pick up a bottle of Hempwell drops today at select retailers or online at hempwell.com. Hempwell. Hemp health for pets.
Attention. Get ready to write down a very important number.
Michael does not know how to fail. Second place is loser.
If you have a medical marijuana case and need legal representation, call the best, attorney Michael Comorn.
He's very passionate in the courtroom.
Getting the best outcome requires quick legal action, and it needs to start with one call, toll-free to attorney Michael Comorn. 800-656-3557. Write it down, 800-656-3557.
Michael Comorn gave us our life back.
Attorney Michael Comorn. Vigorous criminal defense.
Play-Doh compound can help kids practice communication skills. Start by presenting the visual of the letter or word. Then ask them to mold the Play-Doh compound into the shape of the letters. It's an effective way to foster speech and even writing.
Ram trucks are reaching new heights when it comes to capability and efficiency. The Ram Heavy Duty is the most capable full-size pickup on the road today. And the Ram 1500 is the most fuel-efficient full-size pickup ever. So what does that mean? It means Ram trucks are built for the long haul. Ram, America's longest-lasting pickups.
RootMetrics, in the nation's largest independent study, tested wireless performance across the country. Verizon won big with 153 state wins. AT&T got 38, Sprint got 2, and T-Mobile got 0. Verizon also won first in the U.S. for data, call, speed, and reliability. AT&T got text. Stuck on an average network? Join Verizon, and we'll cover your cost to switch.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Sure and certain. There's a lot of things right now that I'm surely certain about. Full Melt Show.
There were ways I tried to change, happening past leaving me there.
Welcome back to the show, Wendy. Hello, Wendy. We'll wait for the music to end, but in the meanwhile, let me just remind you, this thing that I say about the confusion about news, what is news and what isn't news, is a really important thing, and I think historically people will agree with me, history will agree with me, when we look back at events in the future. That part of what may be America's demise is our own population's inability to discern, to figure out what is, to separate fact from fiction. Because if we put you in a world where you can't separate fact from fiction, you might believe one for the other, you're wrong at least 50% of the time, assuming that both are there in equal parts. And so, we can make you functionally dysfunctional. We can make you dysfunctional simply by confusing you about what the reality of the situation is. If I gave you a visual field and 50% of the visual field that you had to rely upon to move around the world was factually inaccurate, you'd be bumping into things and falling over all the time, at least half the time. Because half the time what you're looking at wasn't reality. And I'm saying if that's what you're dependent upon for the news, and if we're eager enough, if we're stupid enough, if we're too stoned enough to figure out that this is what's going on in the world, it's really easy to screw you up in a major, big way. And I'm saying that might be the Achilles heel of Americans, is our fat, lazy mentality when it comes to the security of the world. because it's really easy to screw you up internally, to make you act. People have already done it. Did you see the guy that went down to the place where they said that they were, molesting children, or they had some kind of, at the pizza place in Washington, D.C.? This is all about politics. This is all about the evil of politics and the money that's involved. They said this, and the guy showed up there with a shotgun, ready to murder the people that they were making these false reports about. And that's what I'm saying. If you can't tell what's going on in the world, you're likely to react to something to save your own skin that might be completely false and dangerous. And that's what I think people need to watch out for. But it's right there in black and white. Russ Belville was, I think, the guy that did the report about the marijuana issue. And if you'll give me a second to drag it up. TGI Fridays location posts unsanctioned no marijuana odor sign. I want to say, is that truly what happened? We'll see what Russ has to say, because I don't think he had anything more to say than I did. Using Twitter, Mag Daddy reposted a picture taken from a TGI Fridays chain restaurant location in Maryland that featured a sign banning customers who smell like marijuana. And they show the picture. It's the same one that I posted today on Facebook. I reposted this image. And, people don't necessarily share the image. They'll take the image and post it as if they were the ones that posted it. And they'll say it about their own place. And there were a lot of negative comments about it. Now, I can't take this image on its face because, again, I could see no corporate wisdom that would allow this to happen. I don't think you can hang a sign on the door of a TGI Fridays that corporate hasn't signed off about. And if they allow that kind of thing to happen outside of policy, they're fools in the corporate game. They got a lot of money and people's income on the line over something like that. And although that may be your policy internally, maybe that's what you practice, it's certainly not something you'd hang politically as a sign on the door of an establishment that's open to the public, especially in states where they allow marijuana use for medical use. So the idea that this story would even take that this story is truthful in any fashion is beyond me. But what kind of management or public relation geniuses do you have to be to drive stoners away from your restaurant that serves cheap appetizers, says Russ Belville in his article, posted yesterday on weednews.co. We can understand that the strong smell of marijuana isn't appreciated by everyone. That's not the issue. It's the singling out of marijuana smell odor to be banned for the public diner's benefit that raises our hackles. And, it goes on to defend that position. And I'm just saying, aren't you, Russ Belville, part of, in writing this news story, incorporating it into the real world news? Because I think Russ is a good guy. I think a story about this is important to talk about. That's why I'm bringing it up on the air today. But I think the writer of this story, from the angle that it's written, has fallen for the bait. I don't think this was hung by anybody at TGI Fridays whatsoever, because the answer to his question that he poses in the very first paragraph, what kind of management or public relations genius do you have to be to drive stoners away from your restaurant that serves cheap appetizers? The answer is a dead one. Because any living manager of a food establishment would never turn stoners away with a hungry appetite that are showing up with money and a need to eat. That's what you're there to do, is to serve that need.
And Steve, right underneath that, because I'm looking at the same article to read it, is something that I already heard. That there's an article called "Druggies Like Carrie Fisher Dropping Like Flies." I've already had that reported back to me by a relative. Like, this is the danger of false news and the false narrative and propaganda.
So in the first place, it's my opinion that this story by Russ Belville, although it's on the Google News feed as news, is indeed not news. It is opine. Because a real journalist, which I'm saying Russ Belville is not, he's an entertainer. Russ Belville doesn't come from a news background. I do. I come from a hard news background. A practical, real world, I've worked in major markets news background. And I'm just saying that this is not something that we would allow to fly in the newsroom of any radio or television station or, respectable journalist outlet that's in print, they're dying quickly. But I understand that things need to modify, but when you open up the vast public to masquerade as news journalists, when they don't subscribe to any ethics and are willing to report things that they heard and not that they've documented on their own and can report about. You create a dangerous world because 50% of or more, in this case, I think more of what you go on the news on the internet to find out is news isn't really news at all. It's opinion. It's labeled as news because there's nobody ethically saying you can't call this news. In a traditional place where they print the newspaper, there's the opinion section, which is, there's not many people that get a chance to talk opinion in the opinion section because it's short. Because it's just opinion. It's like assholes. Everybody's got one. But it doesn't necessarily reflect factual, information. It's just somebody's opinion about some issue. And that's more of what you're ending up with as, masquerading as news today than you actually have news. And then what the worst effect is that if that's the surge, if that's the thing that's trending is the thing that isn't news, now you've got major news people looking at this story and although they know it's not true, have to do something to compete with that falsity just to get you back to paying attention to their stuff, which is news. It's crazy. It's dangerous. This presidential cycle is just evidence of a very sick beast. There's got to be some congressional fix, I think, to what is factual information. What is vetted news? What do we consider credible news on the internet? Is there some kind of, special thing that needs to light up like the secure servers that do when you do MasterCard Visa so nobody can break into that thing? What do we got to do so that?
How can you enforce that? I mean,
I'm just pondering. I'm just saying, what do you do to make sure that the news that you're getting is indeed news? Because if you can't figure out a way to do that, it's really easy to fuck you over.
Yeah, and this is a societal issue. Like right now, we only have 22 states in the whole U.S. that even requires our sexual education programs in schools to be factually accurate. We only have 22 states that require the facts you're giving about sex to be factually accurate. Well, how can we enforce news on our TV if we can't even teach our kids what the facts are?
Again, the education system is completely fallible to the money poisoned election system. If you can't get the money out of politics, you'll not kill the poisoned education system, which is just a glorified babysitter masquerading as an educator. It's not happening there. They're completely failing the entire intent of educating the populace because the parents are too afraid, or the teachers are too afraid that the school board's going to get sued and they're going to get fired if some parent comes up and alleges that you said something that was racial or raised a hand or tried to defend yourself because your kid was trying to beat them up. This is not you can't have an environment of learning when there's always this animosity, this threat of this omnipresent threat of potential violence that you can't control. And this is what we've coddled down to. And that's what I'm saying. This is all very dangerous stuff. Major things have got to change. Don't let the marijuana world, as much as we're wrapped up into it, confuse you that these things are factual and you need to pay attention to them, because if you don't, you're going to end up in a world of hurt.
Yeah, because the first instinct when you told me that story was what I think a lot of people had was boycott. That's our knee-jerk reaction.
Well, it's somebody obviously.
People smell with marijuana.
Whoever posted that image obviously had that intent, had some malicious intent against the company, because I just don't see them. The place was empty when they took that picture. Why would that be?
Could be a prankster too. We just don't have the information at all.
I'm just saying all the evidence that I see leads me to believe more suspect about this image being accurate than it being factual. If it was factual, you'd see people on the other side of that door in the restaurant doing what people do in a restaurant, eat and serve food. You don't see that in the image. You see an empty restaurant, and you see this, picture on the outside door. How easy is that to fake? Let's just look at this. How easy is it to pretend that it's your local restaurant when indeed it was taken in 1 state away?
Actually, when I look at it, it looks like there's a guy standing with his back to the door. I can't see the picture that well. It looks like there's where your hostess station would be. Kind of looks like someone is standing with their back to the door and their arm cocked. So there may be people in there, but it probably was after hours, and some kid went by and thought, won't this be funny?
Who knows? We could speculate until the cows come home. What I'm saying is that nobody's done the vetting on this to find out really where that image was taken and who took it with what intent. Because I can tell you it wasn't a journalist that took this picture. And that's what it comes down to. It's easy to knee-jerk react to some of this stuff in such a way that's very disruptive because you're very emotionally wrapped up into the outrage of what they posted. When it just wasn't true, the outrage should be that you fell for all that shit. You didn't make sure that it was accurate before you reacted. And that's, I'm unfortunately saying to you, is how a low-information population tends to respond. Reaction. Without thinking. They just take what they saw and respond.
They repost it, they retweet it, they put it on Facebook, and then all of a sudden it's viral and it's the truth. If you say
That's true. That's exactly it. Because, perception is reality. Whatever people perceive to be the truth it might as well be the truth because it's what they believe. So, it needs a hard, cold look, and people need to do something about it because if it doesn't happen, I'm just telling you, from a strategist standpoint, from an art of war standpoint, if you know anything about the strategy of one power trying to overcome another power, one of the easiest ways, one of the things that you target in that strategy is food, water, and fuel supplies. And it's very easy to take those things away from you if you can cause mass confusion with artificial stories that just have no basis in reality. And that's what I'm saying is the bigger threat. That's the ISIS threat that's infiltrating this country because of our own stupidity and laziness. We're not securing our borders, and we're also not securing our information to our populace. And that's just as dangerous, I say, because if you can get the populace to respond with falsities that you've thrown over the border through the internet, you can cause enough chaos and destruction inside by their actions through that confusion. And that's very dangerous, in my opinion. Nobody's talking about that today. Not a single person I know is talking about that, especially in the marijuana community. They're more interested in the strain of the day or, the nuances of one potent effect of a cannabis strain against another or what the latest gadget is. I'm not saying all that's not entertaining and fun. What I am saying is that it's less important than whether or not the information that you've reposted as news today on your feed was really true. Because you're right, the more people, the more I believe my friends before I believe some story on the internet. And if my friend reported it, God damn it, I'm going to believe it. And I'm just saying you shouldn't do it. Don't fall for it. All right, we're getting towards the end of the show already. If you've got some comment, if you want to feedback about this, if I've lit a fire in your belly about this subject, and who knows. 248-278-8067. Wendy's with us on the phone. You're listening to the highly worldwide syndicated Full Melt Show.
You're getting the Full Melt.
And now, a Planet Green Trees flashback.
When do medibles have to be tested too? Is that also part of the caregiver?
Nope, that's only for the.
Will they have to be tested?
It's only for the dispensaries.
But there is a new restriction with respect to medibles in that patients can only make them for themselves.
Right.
And they've created new crimes for transfers outside of the caregiver.
They're very specific. But, I mean, it's not.
That's what we just talked about.
It's no more harsh than the manufacturer.
No. They can be transferred. The medibles can be transferred from the registered caregiver to the registered patient, but not beyond. And that's how they would expect you to interpret the law.
Don't miss the Planet Green Trees Show, Thursdays at 8 Eastern on Spreaker. Promotional consideration provided by NoSmell.com, pioneering the storage market for cannabis users. The NoSmell patented bag technology offers users 100% smell-proof detection from even the most sophisticated of noses. NoSmell.com, so nobody knows. When placing your order for a no-smell bag, make sure to use discount code FULLMELT and take 10% off the entire order. Learn more about no-smell technology at NoSmell.com.
Don't stop chasing, wander while the day brings up. Here comes the sunrise and we'll see the sunset. Coasting by the ocean with some music, turn it up. We got the whole night, 360 days of this. All I'm talking wide, the memories will make you always make you smile.
Happiness is calling at sandiego.org.
When you need legal help, you don't want to guess at who's standing next to you in court. And when it comes to a medical marijuana defense, it's even smarter to partner with a lawyer before you need one. Based in Royal Oak, David Rudoy has a proven history of not being afraid to take your case all the way to the Supreme Court and win. Find the law offices of Rudoy Law
at RudoyLaw.com.
RudoyLaw.com is a quick reference on your rights concerning Michigan medical marijuana
and up-to-date news.
That's RUDOI Law.com. Call 248-935-9074 now and talk about your legal needs, because at RudoyLaw.com, we don't just stand up for you, we stand up with you.
My moderate to severe chronic plaque psoriasis made a simple trip to the grocery store anything but simple. So I had an important conversation with my dermatologist about Humira. He explained that Humira works inside my body to target and help block a specific source of inflammation that contributes to my symptoms. In clinical trials, most adults taking Humira were clear or almost clear, and many saw 75% and even 90% clearance in just 4 months.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Ask about Humira, the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists. Clear skin is possible.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
And I take it all back, take it all back, take it all back. I take it all back just to have you.
We're coast to coast, Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 Eastern Time. The Full Melt Show.
And I take it all back, take it all back, take it all back. I take it all back just to have you.
With me on the phone is Wendy. Wendy, it's a crazy coming new year. This is my favorite part of the show. It's the end. No, this is my favorite part of the song. I don't know why. That song is weird. It's one of those songs that has a mandolin sounding banjo in it. I don't know. So listen,
I love it.
This business with the news. Bill Maher is one of these guys that's polarizing. You either love him or you hate him. And another guy comes on. Now, this is a comedian. This isn't a guy that's in the news. This guy is not a guy that's creating policy. He's not a guy that is looked at as an advisor. This is a comedian doing entertainment about politics. And they're writing a news story which shows up in my news feed. In an exclusive interview with ATTN, Bill Maher predicted under the presidency of Donald Trump, the U.S. could return to the days when legal marijuana was a fantasy. And so he walks down the Chicken Little, road where the sky is falling. Watch out, Jeff Sessions is going to come in, and I can see the days where you got to go back behind the dumpster. Don't piss off your weed dealer. You might have to go back to him. And, practically he's right. From a practical standpoint, that decision could be made, and there could be enough force put into federal people and the National Guard to back them up to say, look, we're going to start closing down these places that we warned you. You got to close them down. If you don't close them down, we're going to come in and close them down, and they'll start to take that action, knowing full well that they don't have the capacity, the ability to round up all these people and jail them and do all that raiding. They don't have it in them. They've been busy cutting off the head of that snake for the past 30 years. There's not enough resources on the federal level to make that happen, and they know it. The truth of the matter is that same double-edged sword about perception being reality could make it factual that they start this roundup, that they put on this display, and all the smart guys, they know this will happen too, would snap those doors shut just like a rat trap. Quicker than you could blink, they would all snap shut across the state. And that's all they need to happen, is show the force, make the edict, and policy will follow. And that's what Bill Maher says is going to happen. I think that is, the opposite of wearing rose-colored glasses. I'm a little more optimistic than that, and I also am a bigger realist than that. Because there aren't going to be, the events that I just described in an example, in a futuristic, hypothesis, couldn't take place because there aren't going to be uniform following of the rest of the places snapping shut like rat traps. Most of them would. It would have the larger effect, yes, but there would be those that stayed open. And they still have to focus on those. And then when they started working on those and other people said, well, crap, they're making money, we should open back up too. They'd do that too. And then there would be this, again, endless game of we don't have the resources to make this happen. And we've already decided when they look back at it in the first place that we voted to end all this stuff. We decided to stop paying, what is it? How many? It's $80 billion a year that they spend on locking up federal prisoners. And we're still jailing them for pot. It's just nonsense. And they haven't made a dent or an impact on the war. Look, if they could stand on a single thing that said that the war on drugs was effective for, and point to that statistic without everybody cracking up and laughing on their asses when they wanted to call it realistic, or some gain of traction in the war on drugs, then I'd say go ahead and wage your stupid war. If it's having its stated effect, then go ahead and wage it. If you think we should spend that kind of money, go ahead and do it. But I'm saying they can't even make that claim. Nobody can make the claim that the war on drugs, any of them, including marijuana, with a bigger point, marijuana, zero effect has been had on that game. Drugs are cheaper and more prevalent than they've ever been, and there's no way you're locking up the borders. You could create as many walls as you want. It's not going to keep it out. As long as there's a demand, there'll be a supply, and they'll get it there at the cost of any treasure or blood. And it will all be our own.
Who do you think gets it into the jails? How do you think those get there? In the prisons? Because it's the people that work in the prisons that smuggle in that stuff.
Well, they're willing.
Even if it was effective. Go ahead.
It's supply and demand. Go ahead, because haven't had much of a chance to talk, and we're almost over. I might as well give you some breath. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I'm just saying this isn't effective. Like you said, well, if it's effective and you can at least meet your goals, first of all, we have to find out, are these the goals that we even want? Portugal went a different way. They decriminalized, and they help people, and things are better for them. Their needle usage is down.
Uruguay.
The people that are addicts are down. Yeah, it was, I think it was Portugal.
Well,
Portugal
and Uruguay, yes. They're just two of them.
Right.
And then the world stage is following suit. I mean, they see the wisdom in this. Look, in a day where resources are scarce, this is the first place you can go to trim the fat, because this is where the fat truly exists.
But when you can make money on someone because they're locked up, because you're making you $40,000 a year per prisoner, versus putting that same person on the street that makes you nothing, maybe $7 an hour at McDonald's in their pocket.
Hey,
you're more valuable to the corporations as a prisoner than as an employee.
Well,
so
yeah, because for every dollar that they're spending putting you in prison, they're employing another guy who's got to keep track of you and feed you and wipe your ass all day.
So it's the wrong focus. It's the wrong goal. Just like when they used to bring people over across the seas, they were paying for so many people that you could bring over as like slaves and stuff. Well, when the slaves started being dead when they showed up, they realized, no, we're going to pay you for a live slave.
But and
then the number of slaves making it to the shore actually increased.
The bigger
we're paying for the wrong result.
Well, yes, and the bigger problem is that you can't get enough Americans together to vote on this, to end it once and for all. You can't get them to have enough effect to actually force their legislators to say, look, enough is enough with the money in politics. We don't care what the Supreme Court says about this. We want you to write a law that says you can't limit money. Make it a part of the Constitution. Make it a constitutional amendment that, campaigns are publicly financed, and here's how much you get.
It's so frustrating when you say that, though, Steve. I think about the people in Massachusetts that just passed a law for marijuana. And then with a pin stroke, a few people elected have delayed their program by 6 months. So the people did vote and the people did speak, and we're just disrespected no matter what we do. So it's got to be beyond just writing a law, and following the law,
again,
and that easy
you've
stuff.
given these people the ability to either have that power by your edict or have given them the right to vote for that power on their own, and they took it. So what it comes down to is voter responsibility, citizen responsibility. You got to pull up your own britches and educate yourself about this stuff enough to believe in what's going on and participate in the system, because it's the only place you have a voice. And if you do it, it works. If you call your legislators, if you show up in mass and threaten that you're going to throw them out or get them primarily challenged in the next election, they will perk up and listen to you, believe me, because they spend more money on Capitol Hill across the street in their chambers raising money that isn't in government offices than they do actually on the congressional floor or doing things for the people, which is what they were elected to do, because that's the position we put them in. by not weeding money out of politics. They're spending more time raising money than doing the work.
And we can get that money out by going to wolfpack.com. This is a group that's trying to get a constitutional amendment to get money out of politics.
Right.
And they've got already some other states are signed on. Wolfpack.com.
Wolfpack.com. Thank you very much. Wendy, we've reached the end of our time. Thanks to our Facebook listeners. Thanks to our YouTube listeners. Thanks to our sponsors. And more importantly, thank you to you for joining us. We'll see you next year in 2017 on January, 4th, 3rd? We'll see you then on The Full Melt Show.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.